I'd now like to have Tom make reference to the other item that we had requested of his services, and that is to give us a little bit of a background and a little better understanding of the basin, its function, its life, its efficiencies, pros and cons, so to speak. Tom?
Sure. You know, originally the idea of this project was we needed to get shoreline dredging done. People have very little water at their piers and at their shoreline, and it doesn't allow them to utilize the lake the way they want to. They get boats stuck, they can't get their boats out, they can't swim, there's safety hazards with the muck. So, in my view, from what I've heard from people, the primary purpose is to clean up the shorelines and get water depth at the shorelines. And so when I heard that there was a thought of putting the sediment trap as the primary objective and having the shoreline be a secondary project, I had concerns about the fact that we're really not accomplishing what people are most out for as far as what they're hoping to achieve with the dredging. And really the sediment trap was intended to be what I call like an extended warranty to the shoreline dredging. We're looking for a way, people were concerned if I make a significant investment in shoreline dredging, how long is that going to last? Is that going to last 10 years? Is that going to last 20 years? And what can we do to make it last longer? So the sediment trap was really intended to complement the shoreline dredging and was never intended as a standalone project. Even as a complement to the shoreline dredging, there's always been concerns about the effectiveness of the sediment trap. False estimates are that it could potentially capture 50% of the sediment coming down the Bark River into the lake. I'm concerned that might be overstated. You know, we can get into the technicalities of how that's calculated, but I've got reasons to be concerned that that's overstated and that it really won't capture that amount of material. And the other concern is the material it will capture, I believe, is most likely already settling out in the Bark River inlet area, maybe a little bit further out into the delta than where it would settle out in a sediment trap. But anything that's staying in suspension long enough to get to the northwest channels or to get to the west shore or to get down to St. John's Bay, there's no reason that just because you dig a hole underneath it at the entrance to the Bark River that's suddenly going to fall out of suspension at that point. I do have those concerns. And then one thing a lot of people aren't talking about, and this is kind of a double-edged sword, you know, we hope the sediment trap is highly effective. And what happens if it's highly effective? It fills up really fast. And if it fills up really fast, that means we need to dredge it again sooner than later. Right now with Foth's estimate, at 50% effective, they're predicting that we'll have to redredge it once every 14 years. So that means not only are you spending somewhere in the ballpark of $1 million now, but every 14 years you're spending $1 million. And we've got to make sure that if we're looking at, if we're serious about taking on the investment of $1 million now, we need to understand that it comes along with $1 million in perpetuity every so many years once it fills up.
I can say the ones that I built recently, one in Iowa where an event took place. You know, they got 4 inches of rain, and that sediment trap filled up about a third in that one event. Is that a bad thing? You know, that material would have ended up in the resource otherwise. And
well, how does then, if you don't mind me asking, how does your 50% efficiency work? Is that based on 1 inch, 2 inch rainfall, 4 inch? Because I think Tom brought up a great point here. Well, if this puppy fills up within the next 2 years, we've got to cough up another $1 million to clean it.
Well, that's actually based on a 365-day average. When in static times, you know, right now we haven't had a rain in a significant rain in several days, you're going to see much higher efficiency. During rainfall events, that efficiency will actually go down. You'll have less finer grain material that is going to get trapped. It's going to continue into the resource and hopefully for your benefit over the dam and out of the resource. And that's where the mass balance that you spoke to is really important. I mean, that's what we're looking at here, is how much is coming in and how much is going out, and the difference is what's remaining in the resource.
You know, the native soils up in the Dells and Baraboo area up there, I mean, it's extremely sandy. I mean, you dig there, it's like beach material, and that's the type of material you'll catch with a trap like this. Now, one thing, in Foth's analysis, they describe the soils in this watershed as being highly sandy, and I don't know that that's what I've observed as being prominent soils around here. I see much more silty clays and things like that. So it's, I mean, when you get into the technical calculations involved with the efficiency, there were some assumptions and some parts of the calculations that I had some concerns with.
Is this the right size for this lake? The sediment trap? Is it too small? Is it minimum?
No, it's based on the geometry of the lake, just how the lake is laid out, how that current delta is there, you know, the geometry of this inlet. I think that is probably where your biggest bang for your buck is going to be, is with the geometry and the prisms that are laid out for this sediment basin now. If you went bigger, yeah, I mean, you know, the best thing is to dredge the whole lake, make it one big sed basin. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, and you may not want to hear this, you've dammed up the Bark River. You have one big sediment basin here.
If we're serious about taking on the investment of $1 million now, we need to understand that it comes along with $1 million in perpetuity every so many years once it fills up.